Today, I would like to talk to you about the Korg Kronos 3. Korg has announced the Korg Kronos 3, so to speak. This year it was announced, shown under that name, and there are very, very many different opinions about it. Personally, I'm happy that the Kronos is making a comeback because it's simply a good device. The Nautilus wasn't really a hit to my taste, and from what I've heard from my colleagues, and that's why it's quite good to have a decent replacement device, because I've also heard from the local area, especially with the second models, that they somehow don't run quite as well and smoothly. Problems have repeatedly occurred. I also addressed this in a video or on Instagram. That's not so nice. And now you get a replacement, brand new. A positive Hosm side effect is that the device now boots significantly faster. So it's 60% faster, if I remember correctly. That's how I see it. From my perspective, at least for now, is that mainly due to the hardware that's probably inside. Someone will eventually open the thing up and take a look inside to give their opinion. Fundamentally, the question arises, dear people from Korg, why now the Kronos 3? Which at first glance is essentially nothing more than a Kronos 2 with different side panels. Whether the casing is the same remains to be seen. I can't say that yet because I haven't seen one. That's why I want to hold back a bit with my opinion. The screen is a bit better. Supposedly it has better touch capabilities. This is also what people who were at Vendemi are saying, that it is indeed the case. But from my perspective, this is not a highlight. Good for me. As already mentioned, the Kronos continues to run. It's good for workshops. My sounds can continue to be used. First of all, good for everyone. And the musicians who play a Kronos know what they have and can now also get a replacement device which will last another 10 years. You remain very, very stable. Now the question is the foundation so good, and do you want to further develop the Cone to present it as the next flagship? Personally, I don't believe in that because so far compatibility has been and remains the focus when it comes to the Cone. It is also not compatible with the Nautilus. So it remains that you can't transfer Nautilus data to the Cone. So not backwards. Cone to Nautilus works in that direction, but everything else does not. Apparently it is a Cone 2 with new hardware. Would I have personally wished for? I hope that this is now an economic decision because it was realized that the Nautilus might not be what people really want. The Kronos is somehow more popular. It still sells well. So why not reheat it and sell it again? Absolutely. The right decision. Perhaps work is already being done in the background on a new device, which won't be called Kronos, but maybe something else. Again, no, I have no idea. In any case, what I would wish for is that the architecture changes a bit so that more RAM can be used, although that has never really been a problem for me. And that all the other new hardware devices that have now come with ARM architecture also find their way into the Kronos, so that I could basically take the entire core collection or everything else hardware-wise with the Kronos. That would be pretty cool. What would also be very nice is having the pads directly on board, so you don't always have to deal with the hassle of the nano pad on the right or left side. I would really find that a good thing. That's something I miss. I've never had an M3 or an Oasis, but I would say it's really a cool thing to have the pads directly under the screen. You can reach them wonderfully. And if you want to have them elsewhere, you can always add an extra nano pad. The functionality remains available. The foldable display and the fact that it's a bit larger than the Oasis is also a nice thing. Christoph also mentioned that as he also has a Kronos Oasis. That's of course a cool thing, but as the display gets even larger, you naturally get a significantly larger casing. Again, it simply has to grow in depth because otherwise it won't fit, especially if it is supposed to have this adjustment mechanism. What would also be nice, though I don't necessarily need it, would be illuminated knobs and illuminated faders. I found it very, very cool back then with the Kurzweil Ford. That was also one of the reasons why I bought it. But honestly, in the end, I hardly used it. So it was a nice feature. It was there. It was cool. It also works. That was it. The Fantom has that now too. And even there, I don't use it so often that I would say it's a feature worth spending money on. It's nice, but I must say you can do without it. What I use it for now, even with the stage and the drawbars, is actually that I use the computer, the Gig Performer, to get feedback. That means when I switch the preset, I can see directly on the sliders how my organ preset, for example, is set or various volume settings, and I can then adjust it accordingly. And what I would have wished for the most is a proper audio interface. This 2A2, meaning stereo in, stereo out, is simply not up to date when you has enough outputs. So the Kronos offers the possibility to use these 6 outputs, and Roland implemented this with the Fantom half-heartedly. You can use all 6 outputs properly via USB, and that's a really cool thing because I can just pack the Fantom with my computer setup, place my MacBook on top, and still output all signals individually, like with my audio interface. Stereo sum, click my microphone separately, and I still have 2 left over. That's just cool. And that would also be a big step for the Kronos, because it would then be really usable as a master keyboard. Especially because of the keyboard, since I now have the hammer action, I really enjoy playing the 73 key keyboard. Share your opinion on this. What else are you missing? Christoph, as mentioned, has already said quite a bit about it. This is really just a repeat. So I have a similar opinion to his, I would say, like many others online as well.